What's up, everybody? It's Angie here. I am Angie the Amputee, and I am missing my left leg. And yes, it is still gone. Since last time I talked to you, it has not grown back. Wouldn't it be great if that was somehow in the works? That would be so cool. Anyways, if you, I'm here to tell you my third part of my story. If you are new here and you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I suggest you go and watch those. Otherwise, you'll be a little bit lost, and we don't want that. So anyways, where we left off, my doctor had done multiple bone cleanouts where he had tunneled out the inside of my femur shaft and my tibia shaft, and gotten out all the bone marrow, the infection, and a layer or two of the bone on the inside. And they had packed it with antibiotic cement and put an antibiotic spacer in there and put me on IV antibiotics. And I did those for about a year to a year and a half, like right in between there. And during this whole time, I had a nurse coming once a week to check the PICC line, which is like a permanent, kind of a semi-permanent IV. It's not like a port that you put in here, but it's not like an IV either. It's like more permanent that you can, it's kind of in between. Anyway, so I could do those IVs at home. My home health would come once a week, and they would test my kidneys to make sure that they were functioning okay, because these medicines are just, they wreak havoc on the body. And my kidneys started to fail because of these medications. So my doctor had me come back in, and we discussed the options, and he said, you know, you're going to have to make a choice. It's either your kidneys or your leg, and you're gonna have to pick one to save. So naturally, I saved my kidneys. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Anyways, so naturally I needed to save my kidneys. I was like, all right, apparently we're gonna do this. So we scheduled my amputation, the first one, on August 23rd of 2016, and that was a crazy thing to prepare for. I had kind of throughout the time tried to accept that my leg wasn't getting better, that it was really hard. Like, it's really devastating when you're in that moment and you're fighting so hard to save something like that. So I sort of treated it like a loss of a loved one in a way. Like, I was kind of like, I think I was mourning it during the time that I was struggling to fight for it too, like, if that makes sense. So the night before, on the 22nd, what I did was, of course, I was a mom. Obviously, I am a mom of 4 sons who are just amazing. And my sons, they were pretty young at the time, and I knew it would be really weird. They knew that I was fighting for my leg. They were old enough to understand that I was dealing with some major health problems. And so in order to help them deal with it, I decided that they would, this is going to sound really weird, but we wrote messages on my leg with Sharpie that said things like, thanks for helping my mom make cookies, and thanks for taking my mom, helping my mom camp. So, like, we were like telling my leg goodbye in a way. And so we wrote these little messages on there, and I painted my toenails my favorite hot pink, and I knew that I was going to go in and get it taken off at just above the knee. And yeah, it was really heavy and very devastating. And I feel like that night was like one of the longest nights of my life, because I knew that I was going to have to go through something major. But in a way, I had a sense of peace, because I knew that it was the only way that I was going to be able to save my kidneys. And of course, as a mother, a young mother at the time, I was like, I want to be there for my kids. Like, my kids are my life. And so I went in, and the next day, and the doctor laughed because my leg had all these messages written on it, and I had these bright pink toenails, and I was like, it was just sort of a way to say goodbye. And I had all this anxiety. I mean, naturally you're going to have anxiety because it's kind of a major surgery. My beautiful mother was able to come and be with me, and of course my ex-husband was there. I should give some context to what was going on with he's now my ex-husband. That's a whole different story. My ex-husband, I did deal with some domestic abuse and some different things, and so that probably gives a little bit more context as to why I ended up not being able to go to the ER in the beginning when I first broke the leg, and why he didn't, step up that way. I'm in no way trying to throw somebody under the bus. That's, like I said, a whole different story, and I will absolutely do a video where I explain that. But I just want you to know, if you're struggling with domestic abuse, you're not alone. It's difficult. I was in that situation for 20 years, and when you have major health problems, you can't just get out. And when you have kids, you can't just get out, and you're very limited in what you can do. So my mom was able to be there with me, and it meant the world to me, because there were multiple times when he wouldn't allow her to come and be with me, and I would go through a lot of these surgeries by myself. And honestly, no one should have to go through this alone. I became really close to the nurses and my doctor, and my doctor was quite upset. I think anybody would be upset to see, a young mom have to deal with that on their own. I didn't really have a choice, and so there's a saying that says, you never know how strong you are until strong is the only thing you can be. And I truly believe that. Like, we don't know our own strength. And people are like, how did you do it? Honestly, I don't know. You just do it. You don't have another choice. And so I certainly don't take any credit or think that I did anything amazing. I just made it through it. And, there's, life is hard for everybody, and we all have our challenges. Some just are very visible, and some are less visible, and they both have drawbacks, so anyways. So I went in, and of course my doctor laughed because there's messages all over my leg, and he took me in, and he took my leg off just above the knee, and I came out of surgery, and I was in wild pain. Like, that is wild. It's so weird because you go into like Charlie horses, and you go into phantom pain, and it's very similar to if you have like a power line that's severed, and those power lines are kind of waving around. Well, they're trying to ground themselves, like they're arcing, and so it's kind of like your nerves do the same thing. They're trying to ground themselves, and so it would like fire, and it was beyond intense pain. And I had already been through so much pain at that time and up to that point, and I thought, gosh, is this really better? And obviously it is, because you need your kidneys. And so I went home and I started to heal, and my amazing sisters came and helped take care of me, and that was awesome because they saw to it that I was actually taken care of, and that meant the world to me. So my sisters were amazing, and I guess I was actually really funny on the medicines because they put you on a ton of medicines, and so yeah, that's really funny. You say weird stuff when you're on those types of medicines. Things like, I wanted blue bananas, and I kept requesting blue bananas, and my sister said that, actually it was my sister who said that she was trying to change the sheets on my bed because I had an allergic reaction to the nerve medications that I was on, and so I broke out in these horrible blisters all across my the end of my stump, and they were bursting and leaking, and I was just in terrible pain. But I guess she tried to move my cat. At the time I had two cats, and I absolutely loved my kitties, and it was hilarious because she wanted to move him, and I burst into tears. Apparently I started crying and saying that she couldn't move my cats because there was an epidemic of pet depression. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily the case, but apparently I had it in my head that there was an epidemic of pet depression, and I was really concerned about my cat being sad, and so I freaked out. But anyway, so yeah, those blisters got worse that were on my leg that I was just talking about from the nerve medication. So my sisters kept telling my ex-husband that I needed to go to the hospital, and he kept saying no. Again, domestic abuse issues. Very much a controlling person, did not want other people to say what to do and what not to do. So my sisters insisted on taking me to the emergency room, which I was really grateful for. I ended up going to a rehab center for about 2 weeks, and my ex-husband did not like that they, took charge, but honestly, I was in no place, like mental space to advocate for myself. And I struggled to do that anyways, because as many people who have been in domestic abuse situations know, it's difficult when you are squashed into a box and you lose your voice essentially in a lot of cases. And I'm not saying this for pity, and I'm not saying this to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just saying it's just part of my story. Anyway, so I ended up going to this rehab center where they really helped me out. And then I went home, and after about a month after the initial surgery or so, I went back in because my leg was leaking infection, and they did a check, and it was still full of infection. So even though they had taken off above the leg, or above the knee, excuse me, they hadn't gotten everything. So that was a bummer. I was not angry, and it was definitely not negligence on the doctor's part, let me tell you that. The reason why I say that is because the longer the stump that you have, the easier it is to use a prosthetic. So we had discussed that he was going to take off as minimal of amount as possible and try to give me the best shot at utilizing a prosthetic. So this was pre-agreed upon, that we were going to do whatever we could to get rid of the infection, but also give me the longer stump, if that makes sense. So I went in, and they took off more leg. I went home, I was doing the recovery, did all the same things, about another month later. So that was on August 9th of 2016 that I had the second amputation. And I think that's like 6 weeks or something after the first one, maybe 5 weeks. And then I went back in another month later, and they still hadn't gotten it all, so they took off more. And that time they actually got the rest of the infection that was located in my leg. So I was super grateful for that. As you know, I have had 5 total amputations and amputation revisions where they've had to go shorter and take out neuromas and do different things, and I'll touch on that later. But this is just my initial amputation story, that it took 3 amputations to get all of the infection out of that leg. And even then, at the time, they did not get it all out of my body. That's a whole different story. That's something that I, at this point, cannot talk about for legal reasons. But in the future, I absolutely will talk about it. I knew that it would be a long road to recovery, and being in the environment that I was in, that just made it even harder. I'll give some context to that. My ex-husband was an addict, and that was a very difficult road to walk. He was a good father when he was sober, but things got crazy when he was on drugs. And I was raised that you give it your best shot, right? And so I did. I stayed with my ex-husband for 20 years, and I tried to leave multiple times and couldn't get out. There's just a tiny bit of context to that, but that's a whole different story. And it is a crazy story. It is an absolute crazy story. Eventually I got out, and I'm grateful that I did. And to all the people who told me I couldn't see the forest for the trees, I know. It was not necessarily by choice. It's just, it's it's easy to say, get out. When you have kids and you don't have good health, it just compounds the problem, and it compounds the issues. So, like I said, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. In fact, I'm here to advocate for all those who are suffering from either addiction or who are suffering from any type of domestic abuse. There are resources out there to help you get through those things, and I am not judging anyone. I'm certainly not judging my ex-husband. He made mistakes. We all make mistakes. I just am very grateful that I was able to get out with my kids, and my kids are doing great. They're amazing, and I'm grateful that I was able to find my person, which he honestly helped save my life. I do credit him with that. So I do have an interesting story, though, surrounding that, and I'll just tell you that briefly because I do have some time here. When I finally got out, it was, so I had my 3rd amputation in, I believe it was September or October of 2016, and things just kept getting more and more wild with my ex-husband, and I was like, okay, what do I do? I just knew in my gut that I would know when it was time to act, to get out. And February came around, February 7th, and he had gone to find work in, I believe it was Oregon or Washington. I think it was Oregon, actually. And he called me and said, and I am going to work on a Vietnamese fishing boat for 3 months, and the house is set to be foreclosed on in 2 days. Now, he had left me with 3 $5 bills, and 4 kids, 2 dogs, no leg, still healing, and no car. And our house was set to be foreclosed on, and it was just a no-brainer. So I called my parents and said, it's time, let's get out. And we did. We got out, and I lost everything then. Not only did I lose my leg, but I lost my home, and I lost my belongings, because under the circumstances, he was so unhinged mentally that we had to just get out and go. Like, we could only take, like, our most precious things, like our pictures and, the clothes and things like that. So that was really insane. So we left and moved 6 hours away, and just because the nature of the situation was beyond toxic. And so I ended up finally getting out, and I, of course, requested a divorce, and, he understood. He did. I found out afterwards that he had been doing a lot more than what I had been privy to, than what I realized. And I'm not going to go into details on that, just simply because of the inappropriate nature of that. I'm not sure how much I can share on here, and also I want to keep it candid too, because sometimes my kids see these videos, and I don't want to trigger anything for anybody. Also, like I said, I'm more than anything wanting to advocate that if you have an issue with addiction, there are resources that you can get help. And if you're dealing with any type of domestic abuse or anything, there are resources you can get help, and you're definitely not alone, and you can move through it. It's hard, but it's doable. I'm living proof. So anyways, tune in for more of my stories. I have a lot. That's just the first initial story of how I got to where I lost my leg. And yeah, there's a lot more crazy stories, because I do have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I've ended up with 44 surgeries. So, and some of those are really nuts because they don't even make sense. So yeah, there's a lot of crazy things, but honestly, I get asked all the time, how are you so happy? Like, how are you doing well? And I'm doing really well. I really do believe that it's because I live by the saying, those mountains you're carrying, you're only meant to climb. If you think about that, it's super wise, because we all hike mountains in our life, but a lot of us carry those mountains with us even after we've hiked those mountains, climbed those mountains, and we don't have to carry those. I think the reason that I deal well with things is because I deal with things in the moment, like what I'm dealing with today. You know what I'm saying? If it's an Ehlers-Danlos flare, or if it's a phantom limb issue, or if it's a residual limb issue, or if it's deep bone pain, I do deal with chronic illness and chronic pain. And that said, I do think that mentally there are ways that you can go about dealing with that help ease the overwhelming nature of having a chronic illness and chronic traumatic injury. So those mountains you're carrying, you're only meant to climb. Just get up there, enjoy the view, and move to the next mountain. It's a lot easier said than done, but when you step into that space of leaning into the challenge rather than resisting the challenge, you can do it. When we resist challenges and resist the realities of our life, we are met with unnecessary fear, unnecessary anxiety, unnecessary anger, and depression, when we lean into those things, even when they're unpleasant, I truly believe acceptance brings peace. Like, I don't have to like that I'm one-legged. I don't. Because I really don't like that I'm one-legged. In fact, we'll be honest, I really dislike that I'm one-legged. But I accept it. And because I accept it and I lean into that, I effectively take my power back emotionally. And that's everything. So taking your power back emotionally, you tap into your own mental strength and emotional strength. And I hope that helps someone out there. Honestly, that's the only reason I'm doing these videos, is because I really want to help give other people the ability to tap into their own strengths, because you do have that ability. You are stronger than what you believe you are. And just all you got to do is, harness your perspective. Like, change that perspective in your mind, that you're the one in charge. I can't control what happens to me, but I certainly can control how I react to it. It is what it is my saying. In fact, I have it on my wall. Everyone laughs at me because when you say it is what it is, it's, effectively helps just, I don't have to explain the darkness or the grief or, it just is. And when you accept that it is part of you, you can effectively move through that. Emotions are energy. So you've got like emotion, energy and motion. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but all you have to do is just ride that wave of energy and motion, and you can come out of horrible circumstances. I mean, really horrible circumstances, and be stronger and wiser and, I don't know, give power to your pain, I guess. I once heard a saying that the difference between a hero and a villain is that they both deal with pain. It's what they do with it. And I think that's totally true. A hero takes their pain and helps others so that they don't have to deal with that the same pain. A villain takes that pain and seeks for revenge and anger and those things. And honestly, like, the heroes that I've met in my life, they take what they have in their life, the struggles that they've had, and they do good with it. And if I can help one person, it's been worth it. So, yeah. Cheers to a better life. Cheers to happiness. Cheers to accepting. Cheers to peace. And I wish you nothing but the best.